Hello and welcome back. This is part 6 of my Logos for Bible Hub Users series. We've already spent a good amount of time looking at different Bible versions, right? We've kind of looked at different ones of these. We've looked at the parallel resource where we get a bunch of different translations on one page to where we can compare translations of a given verse. We looked at the original language texts. We look at word study tools. We looked at concordances and the interlinear tool in both Bible Hub and Logos. For this video, we're going to take a deeper look at commentaries. I sort of mentioned commentaries a little bit back in the introduction, but I want to go a little bit further as well as give a few recommendations on commentaries and how best to leverage them, especially if you don't personally make much use of them now. So opening up the homepage here on Bible Hub, which I already have open, we can just click comment right here. It's pretty much right in the center of this sort of lower ribbon here. It will default to Genesis 1:1, and that's a fine place to start. You'll notice the jump to list here, so jump to, and it gives each of these following commentaries, right? So we've got Barnes Notes, we've got the Benson Commentary, Biblical Illustrator, we've got John Calvin's commentary, the Cambridge Bible Commentary, Adam Clarke's commentary, John Nelson Darby's Bible Synopsis, Charles Ellicott's Commentary for English Readers, the Expositor's Bible Commentary, the Expositor's Dictionary, Arno Gablin's Annotated Bible, the Geneva Study Bible, John Gill's Exposition, James Gray's Concise Bible Commentary. At the time of that I'm recording this, the Guzik Bible Commentary is still included, but this says that their usage rights have expired. So by the time you're watching this, it may or may not be available. I don't know if they intend to relicense it or not. Anyway, so continuing, we have George Haydock's Catholic Bible Commentary, James Hastings' The Great Texts of the Bible. We have Pulpit Homiletics Commentary. This is mainly for sermons, so if you're putting together teachings and sermons and stuff, it's pretty good. It's part of the pulpit, so Pulpit Homiletics is not the same as Pulpit Commentary. Just keep that in mind. The Jamieson Fausset Brown Commentary, Kale and Delitzsch Commentary on the on the Old Testament. We have King's Commentary, which is somewhat an aloof resource, as I don't actually know anything about the author, other than that he goes by G. de Koning from the Netherlands. You can find a couple links down at the bottom of his commentaries. It seems actually a somewhat modern resource, but again, I don't know who that is. I don't know what his qualifications are, what his education experience is. I have no idea. So I just don't have anything else to say about it. We have John Lang's commentary on the Holy Scriptures, critical, doctrinal, and homiletical. Alexander McLaren's expositions of Holy Scripture, the concise Matthew Henry, right here, Matthew Henry concise, and we have the Matthew Henry full. We have Joseph Parker's The People's Bible Commentary, Matthew Poole's commentary, the Pulpit Commentary, again, which I mentioned is related to the Pulpit Homiletics. We have William Robertson Nichols' Sermon Bible, right there. Okay. We have C.I. Schofield's reference notes Through the Bible Day by Day with F.B. Meyer, so through the Bible. John Wesley's explanatory notes on the whole Bible, and then we have TSK, the Treasury of Scripture Knowledge. This is a little bit more of a cross-reference sort of resource. It's not necessarily a distinct commentary. Basically, it picks a word out of a verse and then gives you a list, not exhaustive, but a decent list of other verses that use that word. Just be careful because these are based on English, not the original language. So it may be pointing you to different verses because they use the same English word that is not actually originally the same word in Hebrew or Greek, right? Okay, so that takes us through all these available through here. So a couple things here on using these. First, obviously you can search for a given passage, right? We can pick a different passage other than Genesis 1:1. From there, you'll get a display of all the commentaries with a distinct entry on the verse in question. You can scroll and read the different ones that have passages on the verse that you're looking at. So something to keep in mind, especially when you're using whole Bible commentaries, such as Gill's, is that parallel passages are often not addressed entirely. So let me give you an example. Let's go to Luke 6:20. Okay, Luke 6:20. Here we are in commentaries, right? Um, and you'll see quite a few places. See notes on Matthew 5:1. See notes on Matthew 5:3. Okay, we keep scrolling down, and we'll get to, let's see, Matthew 5-7, right? So see this passage fully illustrated. So there's really no notes on barns. It just points you to Matthew 5-7. Um, we go further down, we get to Gills. He gives a very brief entry, and then he says, as in Matthew 5:3, see Gill on Matthew 5:3, right? Um, but if we open Matthew 5:3, and again, it takes us to the parallel resource. So we go back to commentaries. Now on Matthew 5:3, we scroll down to where Gill's exposition was, and we see he's got much more than just a couple sentences, right? I mean, the man's got multiple paragraphs to say about this. So often, commentators that have written about the whole Bible, or at least the whole New Testament, will write a full entry on the first occurrence of something that happens. And then when they come to that same thing again, especially in the Synoptic Gospels, they'll just refer back to their prior note. So just keep this in mind as you're using these resources. As you've probably noticed, it can be a little bit irritating to have to scroll through each and every single one of these. You can just go to Gill's exposition on Matthew 5, and this would be his exposition broken out verse by verse. If you're only interested in seeing one commentary, but if you want to see a whole slew of different commentaries all pertaining to the same verse, you're pretty much stuck with this panel here. The way that they're divided are expository. These are commentaries that are mostly based on the words in English to give you kind of a meaning of what is it and what do I do with it. That's on the left side. The right side are exegetical. That means they're dealing much more with the original languages. That's why you'll see Hebrew and Greek terms here as they dig those out and they explain them. Now, beyond commentaries, there are some sermons out here, but I found that very few people avail themselves of these. Most of the time, these are just like individual sermon outlines, but sometimes there's a little bit more information. So to access those, we're going to click the Sermons tab, and here we have different sermon outlines that pertain to Matthew 5:3. So you can click one and you can get kind of a bulleted list here. Thomas Watson's Poverty of Spirit, again, kind of an outline. Not a big deal to most people. Most of the time, you're just going to get this outline. You're not going to get a 8,000 word page of text, right? Like a whole sermon transcript. Some have more than others, but usually it's just an outline. If you're a pastor, rabbi, or some other sort of teacher who has to put together teachings and sermons, you might find this useful. But I just figured I'd throw that in there really quickly. Now back to commentaries. My personal recommendations for commentaries. So let's go back really quick to look at Old Testament commentaries. Now there's roughly 30 or so through here that are available here on Bible Hub. And of those here, I would chiefly recommend the Expositor's Bible commentary, so this one. It's the most modern and it's the most updated bit of scholarship of all of these. Again, aside from maybe King's, but I don't know much about that one, or really anything. So I do like that about the Expositors. It is much more up to date with scholarship and as discoveries and such have been made. My next recommendations would be Gill's Exposition and the Kale and Delitzsch commentary. The former, because it's pretty thorough, right? Gill, he's pretty thorough. He points a lot to the New Testament, and it is a really solid expository commentary. I'm not a Calvinist, but I do have quite a bit of respect for the words that Gill published and the work that he accomplished almost 300 years ago. So he was quite the scholar of his day, judging by his expository commentaries here. Now, for the exegetical side of things, I would definitely recommend the Kale and Delitzsch. So again, that's the KD, right? Kale and Delitzsch Biblical Commentary on the Old Testament. It's going to have a lot more Hebrew. So there's a Hebrew word, There's a Greek phrase as it relates to the New Testament. There's a Hebrew word, and so on. It's not overly heavy. You see, there's not a ton, but there are some Greek and Hebrew terms in it, so make sure you keep up with that. Um, it is a little outdated. It's from the 19th century, of course. Kael and Delitzsch, they were the two scholars that worked on this. Again, I like it. It's great if you can read Hebrew. It's a little bit less useful. You won't quite get as much if you can't, but it's still very useful overall. You just have to deal with sometimes some rather difficult phrasing, I think, because again, this is written in the 19th century um, in kind of a high academic style. The JFB, right, or the Jameson Fawcett Brown, is also a pretty good. Let's see, right there is also a decent commentary. Not incredibly deep, but there are some pretty good insights drawn out there from time to time. Some people love Matthew Henry's commentary because of how spiritual and personally applicable it is. Personally, I'm not a fan, but it is there. For the New Testament, once again, so let's go back to Matthew. Let's go Matthew 1:1. Um, so once again, we come back here to the New Testament. Again, I would start with the expositor's commentary for the same reasons. It's more updated. It's got, I think, better modern scholarship. Followed once again by Gill. Then I would add Meyer's New Testament commentary as far as an exegetical commentary goes. You can see quite a few different Greek words he's calling out. He's calling out, of course, a Hebrew phrase here as Matthew reappropriates that sort of terminology at the beginning of his gospel. He talks about the name Yehoshua, right, after the exile, Yeshua. He even spells it out here in Syriac. If you don't know, that's Syriac right there. He talks about Christos and how it corresponds to the Hebrew Mashiach, right? So Christ corresponds to Messiah, anointed, used partly of priests, partly of kings, and so on. Really good insights here, really good stuff to draw out, again, for what it is. So I do like that for its Greek exegesis. I often prefer exegetical commentaries myself. I know for people that can't read the languages, it can be really tedious to work through if you don't know what this says or what this says or any of that. But I prefer them because these exegetical commentaries, they're usually not just here's what it means and then they tell you how to apply what it means or why it's important what it means, right? I don't want someone to say, here's what I interpret this verse to mean, X, Y, Z. I want someone to say, here's how I interpret this verse to mean X, Y, Z, right? Here's my methodology. Here's how I arrived at my conclusions. So that handles commentaries in Bible Hub. And now, once again, we will open Logos. All right, so right back here to the Logos home dashboard once again. Now, there are multiple ways to access commentaries, but usually you're wanting to check a commentary for a given passage, right? So the best way to do this is go to Guides and the Passage Guide. So we're going to go to John 1:1. Again, we'll use examples that are pretty common. And right here, Commentaries. Right, the section titled Commentaries, pretty much at the top. I usually like to organize my commentaries either by priority or by era. Right, era will break them out based on when that commentary was originally published. So I have the Nicene area, medieval, Reformation, modern is 1700 to current, and then or to 1959. Contemporary is 1960 to present. So these are all the commentaries I have that have been published since 1960. This can be a quick way to survey past scholarship. So you may wonder, why do I care about doing it by era? Well, maybe I want to know what John Chrysostom said about John 1:1, and then maybe I want to go into the Reformation and see what Calvin said about John 1:1, and then I want to go into, let's pick one of these, say Marvin Vincent in the late 19th century said about John 1:1, and kind of just survey across history, right? Survey across church history to check out a verse. So that's why I kind of like to order it by era. For example, if I typically always give more weight to contemporary, the newer ones, because if I open a commentary from 1999, it very well could refer to a commentary from 1928, and often does, especially the ICC. But if I open a commentary first from 1928, there's no way it can refer to a commentary from 1999, right? Obviously, time travel. Um, at any rate, there are other ways of organizing them. You can organize them by author. I don't like this because there's too many of them. You can organize it by series. Um, you can organize it, and this is going to be alphabetical listing of series. So this one is at the top because it's the Anchor Bible, right? Anchor Yale Bible series. You can organize by denomination, right? So if I wanted something that was Baptist or Anglican, right? Now these aren't strictly tagged as like this is only going to apply to Eastern Orthodox or Messianic. Those are a little bit more specific. But Baptist, usually it's either based on the publishing house or the commentary series or the author. Um, so it can vary a little bit, especially once you go between different books. For example, I might open something by N.T. Wright. It's going to say Anglican. I might open something by Scott McKnight. It's going to say Anglican. Um, but then I'm going to go into the same series and pick something by, you know, D.A. Carson. And I assume it would put Carson under, well, out of all of these, probably other Protestant, maybe Presbyterian, definitely Reformed. But anyway, so the point is, you can order it by denomination. I don't care to do that because I really don't care what denomination it falls in. Everybody's got some insights into something somewhere. So usually I'm on era or priority. That's just me. So once again, going by priority, we have the Word Biblical Commentary, the New International Commentary on the New Testament. Notice there's two of them. Because the original was Leon Morris's of 1995, and then the 2010 release that was an update, kind of a re-release of a new international commentary by J. Ramsey Michaels. The Hermeneia, the New Covenant Commentary series, the Tyndale from 2003, and then the update, same author, but he updated it, was it 14 years later? The Anchor Bible, the International Critical. There's also a older version of that. I think that itself is a revision as well, and a whole bunch more. So as you can see, I have a lot of different commentaries. I am a sucker for academic commentaries. So I'll pick this one, the Word Bible Commentary, and just open it up. See that it opens the whole resource, right? But it opens it to the passage in question. So it doesn't open it to the beginning. It doesn't open it to the last place I was reading, which was probably somewhere in John 7, honestly. It opens specifically to the passage from the passage guide. So because I'm studying John 1:1, it opens this commentary to John 1:1. Okay, cool. Now, something to keep in mind with Logos commentaries is that they are formatted in different ways. So the Word Biblical Commentary, for instance, goes section by section through a book. It offers a translation, notes. This one at least has form, structure, setting, uh, breakdown, and then the commentary, and then a sort of like summary explanation after all that. So this would be the author's translation. This would be some important notes, usually textual notes, and then we actually get into the commentary and the summary explanation. I like all this information. I like the way it's organized. That's why the Word Biblical Commentary is my top prioritized commentary. So that's why it's over here. But the others all work their own ways. So it's the same thing here. You select a commentary, you open it up, it'll open to the passage in question. You may also notice that in my list here, there are some commentaries here that were also on Bible Hub. So the JFB, for example, Lang's. And if I scroll long enough, I will find most of the rest of them. Matthew Henry, yeah, hey docs. Anyway, I don't usually check those most of the time. I don't particularly care about most of those. But they were included in Logos bundles or packages that I bought, so now they sit here in my library, and should I ever need them, they're here. But again, for me personally, I tend to prefer more recent scholarship. So once again, as with any sort of Logos resource, if there is a reference in a text to a different resource, be it a commentary or monograph or other resource that you have in your library, it will link in the pop-up menu and you can click the reference. So for example, if I open the, say, revised version, J. Ramsey Michael's New International Commentary, okay, that's how it opens. They're doing it by pericope, so this is going to be the first 5 verses will be covered in the commentary section here. Now let's say that I scroll down a little bit and I come to the 6th footnote, right? Now this footnote is itself referring to, it says pros is literally toward God, and it says to see this resource, right? Well, because this is highlighted in blue, I can hover over that, and if I click it, it opens Raymond Edward Brown's Anchor Yale Bible commentary on John. So because I have this in my library, just going to the footnote, hovering over it, then clicking it, clicking this reference, it opens right there. I can also open other resources. So for example, it said BDEG, that's again my Greek lexicon for a specific word, and it opened it right there to the reference. So that pretty well covers commentaries. Once again, I love them. They are incredible resources. Just be mindful that they are themselves the interpretations and the work of others. So look out more for the ones that give their justification of their interpretation, not just their opinion or not just sort of matter-of-factly, this is what it says, and move on. I do prefer myself exegetical commentaries. That's why most of the ones I use are pretty heavy in their Hebrew and Greek usage. But again, if you want to get more out of it, you've got to put more into it. You've got to focus on learning the biblical languages. I will have more to say about commentary resources and purchasing them in the 10th installment of this series, so do stay tuned for that. So just like with Bible Hub, there are sermon outline resources available in Logos as well, many of which come in different base packages. In fact, if you look at my library, sermons is an entire type that we can filter by. And here we have all of these, most of which I haven't opened. But there are expository sermons we could go and check out. So we could go in here to, let's say we want Luke 6. And this here is a sermon outline. So it gives us a topic, obeying God's word, passage to anchor it with, and then kind of an outline between different verses. It also has some cross references and that sort of thing. As you probably saw, I have hundreds of sermon resources. I rarely ever touch them, but they're here. And again, if you're a pastor, teacher, rabbi, what have you, you may get a lot of benefit out of it. I'm a pastor and I prepare sermons. I just don't typically use these sort of predefined outlines, but maybe I'll find them more useful in the future. At any rate, that brings me to my recommendations once again. My recommendations for commentaries are not cheap. I'll go ahead and brace you once again for the sticker shock. Again, please check out the 10th video for some tips on getting them cheaper than full price wherever possible. Also be sure to check out the descriptions, the links therein. Some commentary sets you can't get unless you just buy the set. So in those cases, it's going to be pretty expensive. You know, we're talking hundreds or even, $1,000, $1,100. Right, so $1,000 for I believe the Word Biblical Commentary is normally priced at either 1,100 or 1,200, something along those lines. 61 volumes, right? So if you break that out over 61 volumes, then yes, that's not an ungodly price, but it is very expensive. It is hard to afford. So most of these commentary sets, my advice is going to be if it doesn't come as part of a package and you just buy that package, then definitely wait for the once or twice a year that it goes on sale. So if you see these things at 40% or more off, that's the time to jump on it. So just go ahead and throw that out there. But for me, so for the Old Testament, my top Old Testament commentary recommendations, first of all, it's going to be the JPS series. All right, so we're going to go JPS, Tanakh. These commentaries right here, as well as the Torah commentaries, you just about can't get better than Jacob Milgram on Numbers, or Baruch Levin on Leviticus. So the JPS series is great for a solid Tanakh experience, right? It's also great for the Jewish perspective. It's got some incredible insights into the Torah. Take it with a grain of salt, of course, but there's some incredible work here. Now, for the top scholarly, and I mean, make you wince at times sort of scholarship, I would have to recommend the Anchor Yale Bible Commentary series, especially once again, Jacob Milgrom. He has the volume on Leviticus. It is phenomenal. I have still never seen better work on Leviticus. The top conservative or more evangelical series, I would say, would have to be the New American Commentary. So this is the NAC, right? The NAC. It's the New American Commentary. That's going to be more of a conservative option for a balanced approach that I believe has a solid eye towards really good scholarship, but also scriptural authority. So they're not going to, fill it with all these theories about how, uh, Moses wasn't real and Jesus wasn't real, or maybe, he was just a normal guy, or they just adopted some, Canaanite religion and, that became the religion that birthed Jesus, and all these kinds of things. For those that I think offer a balanced approach towards solid, good scholarship and scriptural authority, that I would recommend would have to be, going back over here once again, the Word Biblical Commentary series, so WBC. Um, the Smith and Helwys, that's the SHBC. So Smith and Helwys, that's these volumes. The reason it's not over here in my list is because there isn't one on John, so he doesn't show up. And also the New International Commentary, specifically the Nikot, because again, this is my Old Testament recommendation. So the Word Biblical Commentary, the Smith and Helwys Biblical Commentary, and the Nikot, the New International Commentary. There are a few others that I consult that I have multiple volumes of, such as the New International Version Application Commentary, or the NIVAC. I really like, but in general, these are my go-to. So for the New Testament, I recommend, once again, the Word Biblical Commentary, the NCCS, that's the New Covenant Commentary series. I recommend the Nikont, or the New International Commentary on the New Testament, and again, the Smith and Helwys. I also recommend any commentary by Craig Keener. So we have Acts, we have Galatians. His Galatians commentary is phenomenal. Acts, of course, his commentary is in 4 different volumes, thousands of pages. He has a recent volume on First Peter. Actually, I believe Galatians is also not very old. First Peter, I still need to get the one on John, but nevertheless, any of Keener's individual volumes are incredible. Seriously, monumental work. I would also recommend the 2-volume set. I'm not big on whole Bible commentaries, but I would have to recommend the 2-volume set on right here, the IVP, it's InterVarsity Press, the IVP Bible Backgrounds Commentary. There's 1 volume on the Old Testament by John Walton. There's a New Testament volume by Craig Keener. Both first and second editions are great. The second's a little more up to date. Obviously, as you can see, I have both. This is the first edition. This is the second. Um, Both great reference works, not exhaustive. They're pretty short entries, but some great background to things. So with that, we're pretty much done with our comparison of resources and features when it comes to commentaries. There are other ways to access commentaries, such as the exegetical guide, which we have right here. But it's easier to use and more popular to use the passage guide if what you're wanting to do is get into commentaries. Right. So there's also a way to create a collection of your favorite resources and have that show up in its own section. You can search through just those. There's plenty of how-tos out there for that, so I'm not going to rehash just some of the same material. I want to constrain my videos again to Bible Hub features and how to get the same use and more out of Logos. So we can't create collections and that sort of thing on Bible Hub, so I'm not going to really cover that. At any rate, as always, thanks for checking out the video, links in the description, and shalom.